Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's Cabinet meeting. If, first of all, I could just go through the fire evacuation procedures for evening meetings. There are no fire alarms scheduled for this evening's meeting. Therefore, if the alarm sounds, please evacuate the building immediately. The fire exit is located at the side of the room. Exit through reception and meet in the War Memorial Park. This meeting is being webcast live on the internet and will be available to view on YouTube after the meeting. If I can just check that. Brilliant, thank you very much. And if I could ask everybody to switch off their mobile phone or turn on to silent, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. So, thank you very much. That's very helpful. First item on the agenda, I've got apologies for absence and I've got apologies from Councillor Ganesh. Any other apologies? No, I think everybody else is here. Second, declarations of interest. Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Leader. As per my register of interest, I will leave the room for item 6.
Thank you very much. Item 3, urgent matters. I don't think I haven't been made aware of any urgent matters. Thank you. Then minutes of the meeting held on the 8th of February. If I got any comments? No, I haven't. In that case, can I move that the meetings be signed as a correct record of the meeting? Everybody in agreement? Brilliant. Thank you very much. And then on to item 5, which is confirmation of Article 4 direction relating to the commercial to residential changes for use in Basingview. The recommendations are as the paper in front of us. I don't intend to do an introduction myself. Whether there's any comments or questions on the paper? No. In that case, can we accept that the recommendation is as on the meeting papers? Everybody for? Agreed. Anybody against? Any abstentions? No. Thank you very much. Then moving on to item 6, which is the Housing Standard Method and Local Plan Update paper. I've got, thank you very much, Councillor Tristan. I've got one visiting councillor. Councillor Harvey, would you like to come up to the table? And we'll hear your representation before I do my introduction. You were all right there and settled in, Paul? Brilliant. In that case, you've got 4 minutes and I'll give you 1 minute's warning, starting now.
Thank you, Simon. Cabinet members, I'm asking you to take another route to challenge the housing figures that have been handed down by government from on high. I say to you that we need to look at our local circumstances with hard data. The current 2014 ONS standard method housing figures are based on data that is 13 years old. They're estimates and projections based on data that will not stand up to any reasonable scrutiny, especially at EIP, and they would leave this council wide open, we believe, to judicial challenge. We know that the 2021 census data, which comprises hard data, actual surveys with answers directly from our residents, will be available from May this year. The Chelmer model, which is widely respected in the planning world, would give this council a solid basis on which to challenge the standard method. Its basis would be hard data, not extrapolation. An inspector in 2024, looking at our local plan, if we do not change track now, would be faced with a standard method by then 15 years out of date. We say we should follow a new approach with a new methodology calculated based on actual figures, for example, on migration, which would flow from the 2021 census data. Again, hard data, which would stand up to scrutiny, and it would be far less challengeable legally. We know that the early release of data from the ONS, projected to 2025, suggests that in the first year of our new local plan, deaths will be overtaken by births. Births will be overtaken by deaths based on the emerging information from the existing census data, from the emerging census data. The Chelmer model will be able to make forecasts for 2024 through 39 in that period much stronger than using the standard method. All the data will be completely available by March 23, well before any timetabled Regulation 19. The Chelmer model will only get more sophisticated with its analysis, so we have no need to wait for government to change its own methodology. We could seize the initiative, act ourselves, and that's exactly what our residents want. They want leadership from their council. If this council proceeds with a Regulation 18 consultation based on the 18,000 units, then we will be held hostage to developers who will see our evidence base written for the 18,000 units, our policies written for the 18,000 units because they're permissive, and they will use this against us at EIP. In a sense, it will become a self-fulfilling prophecy if we put our head in that noose. The reason for the exceptional cases argument, we believe, is a red herring, because it's not worked anywhere else. You can't make an exceptional case if the data you're basing it on is so wildly out of date. We say it would be reckless to make that argument, and it would be deceitful to lead the public and members on thinking that we could succeed when even our own officers admit in committee that there has never been a successful challenge to exceptional circumstances.
You have 1 minute.
We need to change the course now by using the hard data that will be becoming available within our future, within the next few months, to build a coherent case for alternative numbers, and I ask you to consider that this evening in your direction of travel. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you very much, Paul. I'll go on to my introduction to it, if I may, members. I think it is only right not to underestimate the importance of this paper for our borough, with the growing pressures of house building and the potential conflict that creates in the need to protect our environment and our ecology of our borough. We have a local plan update that will start later this year when the local plan draft, otherwise known as Regulation 18 stage, is released for consultation. This paper in front of us outlines the need to develop our evidence so that that evidence base can then follow the unanimous wishes of this council. We continued working on preparing a case for a number of homes which recognises our local constraints and the previously high delivery rate of homes. I believe it's also right that we make a case to change the 5-year land supply test. I will continue to repeat that it is ridiculous that the 5-year land supply test currently ignores our past high delivery rates and the eye-watering number of planning permissions that have already been given. This is simply wrong. Updating our policies to deliver on our collective determination around climate and the ecological emergency is also important. Policies that mean we are doing our absolute best to protect our borough. I wholeheartedly agree with our residents that we've had enough of the build mentality. It is now time to be more considered around what gets built, where and why. We fully accept that we need to continue to build homes and we need to do this in a planned way. Therefore, it would be irresponsible not to continue shaping future policies for the Basingstoke-Dean local plan update and meet the deadlines set out to achieve this. However, alongside this, we also need to make it very clear to everyone that the past delivery of homes is not sustainable for future years and is not right for our borough. Based upon previous support, I am confident that Cabinet members will back this logical approach, and I look forward to hearing their views as we move forward with these proposals. I call on Michael Gove, the Secretary of State, to abolish the central formula and give planning inspectors the direction to take into account local constraints. As there is scant evidence they have been doing this with other recently submitted plans, which means planning inspectors are not following the wishes of Westminster and central government. This must change. The recommendation is in front of us, and I am more than happy, Councillor Harvey, to accept any evidence about preferred or other options that we could use to defend our unanimous position around the housing numbers. So I thank you for your representation. We have a recommendation in front of us, Cabinet, as per the papers. Can I ask if everybody's in agreement of the recommendations? Anybody against? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. We'll take that forwards. Would you be able to get Councillor Robinson for me back in the room? Thank you very much. Welcome back into the room, Councillor Robinson. Moving on to item 7, which is the 2021-2022 Quarter 3 Capital Monitoring Report as of the 31st of December 2021. If I could hand over to Councillor Isaac.
Thank you, Leader, and good evening, Cabinet. This report forecasts capital expenditure to Quarter 3 of £21.087 million. The disappointing feature of this is the level of slippage that's been in that £18.351 million of the capital programme has not been spent in the time that was expected. This is something that clearly I've discussed with the senior officer team. A lot of the explanation can be levelled at the disruption caused by the pandemic, but by no means all of it. And the problem with these delays is that it does have an impact on our cash flow, and most importantly on the timing of the delivery of some of these projects for the benefit of our residents. It's good that we are bringing in a new finance system from next month, and I'm assured and have every confidence that this will improve monthly monitoring. By its nature, capital expenditure can't be ever 100% delivery, but with the new finance system and a traffic light system to measure the expected activity and actual levels of completion, I think we are going to be able to improve performance. It's something that will be reported regularly to the Capital Programme Board. One of the major elements of the slippage is the £13.119 million that was expected to be spent in purchasing our share of the land at Mennydown North. Now that the Section 106 agreement has been completed, the mechanism is now in place for that purchase to proceed. There's still some work to be done on that, but at least an important stage has been reached in relation to being able to invest that money for the building of the new homes at Mennydown North.
Thank you, Councillor Isaac. Any comments or questions on the paper in front of us, colleagues? No. In that case, our recommendations are on page 98 of the papers. Can I ask, is those people that are in agreement with the recommendations? Anybody against? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. That's carried. Then moving on to the Quarter 3 Revenue Budget Monitoring Report for 2021-22. I'm sure that's supposed to read on our agenda. Again, over to you, Councillor Isaac.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. A happier picture here, in as much as we are much closer to our forecast expenditure. We're an underspend of only £370,000 to this point in the budget year of 21-22. This is against a latest budget of £35.17 million. So I think that's a pretty good performance. I'd like to take the opportunity of congratulating our finance team in particular, but officers generally, in the good performance that this report reveals in relation to getting government grants out to residents and businesses to assist them in dealing with the problems that have been brought on us by the pandemic. The report reveals that some £54.38 million has been distributed to the point of this report, and there's a list of the 12 grants that encompass this, and a lot of businesses retailers, hospitality and leisure, and residents who have got problems of rough sleeping or suffering hardship have benefited from the distribution of these grants. I think I believe that we've been one of the most efficient boroughs in distributing these grants to residents across the country.
Thank you very much, Councillor Isaac. Any comments or questions from colleagues? No. In that case, the recommendations again are in front of us on page 118. All those that are in support of the recommendations? Anybody against? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. Then moving on to item 9, which is the future direction of public and community transport on pages 139. Again, the recommendations are very clear and the paper's very clear with quite a lot of evidence in the appendices in front of us. So I don't intend to do an introduction, only just to remind colleagues that the recommendations are in front of us on page 140. Can I ask all those in favour of the recommendations as laid out in front of us? Anybody against? Any abstentions? No, thank you very much. And now we move on to item 10, which is the transfer of community land at Harwood Paddock at Walton Hill. John, over to you.
Thank you, Leader. I think I can declare an interest here, but safely, in that this is in my ward in Evacuation. I'm delighted that having taken new housing in the parish at Harwood Paddock, as part of the development, land was provided by the developer through agreement with the Borough Council for a green space, and I'm delighted that the Parish Council of East Woody decided that it should take responsibility for the future maintenance and use of that paddock. I think I'm absolutely confident that they will do it very well indeed. I look forward to wandering amongst the orchard trees in the years to come, and I'm very happy that this now that there will be no risk of development, and it will be a permanent green space in the village.
Thank you very much, Councillor Isaac. Any comments or questions? No. In that case, all those in favour of the recommendations on page 168? Yeah. Any against? Any abstentions? No. Thank you very much. Then we move on to item 11, which is the own home loan eligibility criteria. Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Leader. Encouraging home ownership has been a key priority for this administration. The own home loan policy, which was the first of its kind in the country, has been successful despite a slow start due to the pandemic. It's provided an invaluable first step for a number of young people in our borough to get onto the housing ladder, and the purpose of this paper is to expand that opportunity for people in our borough. With the introduction of the government-backed First Homes scheme, we now have a full suite of home ownership options for people in our borough, together with our nationally recognised work for our most vulnerable residents and the homeless. The purpose of this paper is to align the criteria for own home loan to First Homes, which will help simplify the process and expand opportunities for all in our borough. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Any comments or questions for the portfolio holder? No. In that case, can I ask for all those people in favour of the recommendations that are on page 167, I think it is. All those in favour? Anybody against? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. In that case, we can move on to item 12, is the Community and Voluntary Sector Grant Funding for 2022 and 2023. It's, again, very well laid out in front of us. It is, in essence, very clearly laid out and evidenced with the examples of how it's been paid in the past. Any comments? Councillor Fox.
Thank you, Leader. I just want to say to you, I welcome this paper, and I'm looking forward to picking it up later. Some of the detail going forward, I would like to get a little bit more information about, so I look forward to working with people on that as it comes forward. Thanks.
Thank you, and welcome to the Cabinet, Councillor Vox. And I look forward to handing over much of that in my previous portfolio to you. I can truthfully say that working with the community and voluntary sector has been one of the biggest pleasures of being a councillor here at Basingstoke-on-Deane. So I'm sure hopefully you will enjoy it as much as I have over the years. So thank you for that. We've got the recommendations in front of us on page 298. Can I ask all those that support the recommendations? Anybody against? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. Then we move on to item 13, which is the 2022-23 Corporate Performance Monitoring Scorecard. Mr. Paul Beavis has joined us as a visiting speaker. So, Paul, if you would like to come up to the table. Welcome, Paul. You officially have 2 minutes, but we'll see. We see how you go on that one.
Thank you, Leader. Can I refer you to section 3.13 of this paper, which states it should be noted that there are some performance measures yet to be confirmed by regulatory services regarding parks and open spaces, and that's of particular interest. Council's requested to consider the following points and to communicate these to the Scrutiny Committee, and I've passed a copy to your Secretary. Service demand on operations appears to exceed supply. Further expansion will increase the risk of late or non-delivery, especially if processes for planning, monitoring and early warning of the need for corrective action are insufficient. Timing can be more critical for conservation than for amenity. Early warning of capacity constraints and agreed and transparent scheduling and monitoring of performance should reduce those risks. We request corporate performance measurement to be transparent end-to-end, and that community conservation groups through Natural Basingstoke are given an opportunity to comment on proposed measures at all levels as they come forward. The headings can be summarised as follows, and this leaves out detail which is included in my notes passed over. Forward capacity plans, rolling schedules, issue escalation and resolution, and a community service report which helps community groups see how efficient. Beyond that, I've just got 2 or 3 other points. There is a concern that Council will authorise and prioritise additional workloads that cannot be accommodated, or else ration resources that result in communities and conservation groups experiencing the lack of transparency and service that Hatchwater Nature Group continue to experience 8 months after the due dates. Incomplete schedules are demoralising for volunteers and are not so infrequent as you might imagine. Finally, last but one, if Council intends as a corporate target the planting of 400 trees, the target may be reasonable, but where will Council record tree losses so that everybody knows the net gain or loss? Lastly, in 3.14, reference is made to collating and analysing information, but there is no commitment to frequency or transparency. Can this be clarified, please? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul. That was a long list, and I'm conscious that you've handed it in to our officer. So what I'm suggesting that we do is a written response, unless any portfolio holder wishes to summarise any comments now, but I don't think we're able to do that because it's such a long list. Is that okay with you? We'll get a written response to you. We have your details, and I don't mean that in a sinister way. Working closely with you and the volunteers, which we greatly appreciate. I don't know whether, as our Section 151 officer isn't here, whether the Chief Exec felt the need to say anything as far as the paper is concerned. I don't as the leader, so...
Thank you. I suppose just to say very briefly, this is the proposed updated corporate measures that would be measured quarterly and then reported through to scrutiny on a 6-monthly basis to show how we're doing against the current council plan and the supporting priority plans underneath that.
Great, thank you very much. Any other comments or observations from the scorecard? No. Just trying to find my space. So we've got a recommendation to us and a recommendation that goes forwards to full council on page 319. All those in favour of those recommendations? Anybody against? Any abstentions? Thank you very much, colleagues. In that case, we don't have any other items that we need to exclude the press or the public for. So I would just like to thank everybody for attending this evening. Thank you very much.